Taman had stopped counting the days after the first year. The metal walls of his cell looked the same whether it was morning or night on whatever world this alien ship orbited. He sat on the hard bench that served as his bed and stared at his hands. These hands had once saved lives. Now they did nothing but exist. The war had ended 2 years ago. The Zathran Empire and humanity had signed a ceasefire after 5 brutal years of fighting across a dozen star systems. Taman had been a medic in the Special Forces, pulling wounded soldiers from burning dropships and sealing chest wounds while plasma fire screamed overhead. He was good at his job. Good enough that his entire squad trusted him with their lives. That trust hadn't saved them when the Zathran ambushed their position on Kara 7. Taman was the only survivor, and only because the enemy wanted prisoners for their war crimes trials. 47 humans remained in Zathran custody. He was one of them. The door to his cell suddenly hissed open. Taman looked up, surprised. His daily meal had already been delivered hours ago. 2 Zathran guards stood in the doorway. They were tall creatures, nearly 7 feet with dark purple skin that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lights. Their faces were almost human-like, but stretched, with large black eyes and no visible nose, just slits above their lipless mouths. "Come with us," one guard said in broken human language. The Zathran had learned some human words during the war. Most were threats. Taman stood slowly. He had learned not to make sudden movements around the guards. "Where are we going?" The guard didn't answer. They just gestured with their plasma rifles. Taman walked between them into the corridor. This was new. In 18 months of captivity, he had never left the prison section of the ship. The guards led him through twisting hallways that seemed almost alive. The walls pulsed with a faint blue light, and the floor felt soft under his feet like walking on skin. They passed other Zathran going about their duties. Some stared at Taman with their black eyes. He couldn't read their expressions. Fear, hatred, curiosity? He had no idea. After what felt like an hour of walking, they stopped before a massive door. It was different from the others, carved with strange symbols that seemed to move when Taman looked at them directly. One guard pressed his hand against the door. It opened silently. The room beyond was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that Taman couldn't see where it ended. Pillars of that same living material held up the space, and at the far end, on a throne that looked grown rather than built, sat the Zathran Queen. Taman had seen her face on propaganda videos during the war. Queen Velamora, ruler of the Zathran Empire. She looked different in person. Taller than the guards, her skin was a deeper purple, almost black, and her head bore a crown of bone-like protrusions that marked her as royalty. She wore robes that shifted colors as she moved. "Closer," she commanded. Her voice was strange, like multiple sounds layered on top of each other. The guards pushed Taman forward. He walked across the vast floor until he stood 20 feet from the throne. He could see her eyes now. They weren't completely black like the others. There were small specks of silver in them. "You are Taman," the Queen said. It wasn't a question. "You were a medical soldier." "I was a medic, yes." Taman kept his voice steady. "Your people say you were skilled, that you saved many lives." "I tried." The Queen stood. She was even taller than Taman had thought, nearly 8 feet. She walked down from her throne with careful steps. "I have studied human medicine. Your species has a talent for adapting, for solving problems in unusual ways. The Zathran are precise. We follow paths laid down by our ancestors. But sometimes precision is not enough." She gestured to a side door that Taman hadn't noticed. It opened and another Zathran entered. This one was smaller, only about 5 feet tall, with lighter purple skin and those same bone protrusions starting to grow from its head. "A child, a Zathran child. This is my son," Queen Velamora said. "Prince Keshava. He is dying." Taman looked at the child prince. Even he could see something was wrong. The young Zathran's skin looked dull. His movements were slow and jerky. His eyes had no focus. "Your physicians can't help him?" Taman asked. "They have tried everything. The finest minds in the Empire cannot identify what destroys his cells from within. He grows weaker each day." The Queen's voice remained steady, but Taman heard something underneath. Pain, fear. He had heard it before in the voices of parents watching their children die. "Why tell me this?" Queen Velamora moved closer. Taman forced himself not to step back. "Because you will save him. I'm not a doctor. I'm a field medic. I treated soldiers with trauma injuries, not diseases." "You will save him," the Queen repeated, "or you will die. But first you will try everything. You will use human thinking. Human creativity. You will find the answer my people cannot. Timon looked at the child again. Prince HFY stared at nothing with sick eyes. An innocent child, the son of his enemy, the heir to an empire that had killed millions of humans, that had killed his friends, his squad, everyone he cared about. I lost my entire team to your soldiers, Timon said quietly. Everyone I served with died screaming on a rock called Karis 7. You want me to save your son? I want you to do your duty as a healer, the queen said. Is that not what you swore? To save lives. She was right. Timon had taken an oath before the war, to help the sick and injured regardless of who they were. But that was before he had seen what war actually was. Before he had held his best friend while he bled out from a plasma wound. Before he had spent 18 months in a cell forgotten by everyone. And if I refuse?
Then you will die now and my son will die slowly.
2 deaths instead of 1. Perhaps that is what you want. Perhaps human medicine is not as advanced as I believed. It was a challenge. Timon recognized it. The queen was manipulating him, using his pride and his old oaths against him. But what choice did he have? Die now for nothing? Or try to save a child and maybe die later? He looked at Prince HFY one more time. The child swayed on his feet, so sick. So young, I'll need equipment, Timon said. Access to your medical data. And I'll need to examine him fully. You will have everything you require. And when he's healed? If I manage to save him? Queen Velimora tilted her head. Then we will discuss your future. That wasn't an answer. Timon understood. He would save the prince or die trying. And if he succeeded, the queen would probably kill him anyway. A human who knew royal secrets couldn't be allowed to live. But the child was dying. And despite everything, despite the war and the deaths and the hate, Timon couldn't watch a child die when he might be able to help. When do I start? He asked. The queen gestured and 2 medical attendants appeared with equipment. Now. Timon walked toward Prince HFY. The child looked up at him with unfocused eyes. And in that moment, Timon made his choice. Not for the queen, not for himself. But because somewhere inside, underneath all the pain and anger, he was still a healer. He just hoped he wouldn't regret it. 8 months had changed everything. Timon stood in the medical chamber and watched Prince HFY play with a puzzle cube. The young Zathran had grown stronger, his skin now vibrant purple instead of the sickly gray it had been. His movements were quick and coordinated. He was healthy. Timon, look, HFY said in Korean. His voice was high and excited. I solved it. The child held up the cube. All 6 sides showed the same color. Timon smiled despite himself. Good job. You're getting faster. Those first weeks had been desperate. Timon had worked day and night, studying Zathran biology through their databases. The translation systems were poor, but he understood enough. The prince suffered from something like cellular rejection. His own body was attacking itself at a genetic level. Zathran medicine tried to treat it with precision, targeting specific cells. But that wasn't working. Timon had tried something different. Human medicine had learned to work with the body's systems, not against them. He developed a treatment that didn't fight the rejection but redirected it. Tricked the prince's immune system into recognizing his own cells as safe. It was messy, not precise, but it worked. Queen Velimora had been shocked when her son started improving. The Zathran physicians had been insulted that a human prisoner succeeded where they failed. But the queen didn't care about their pride. She cared that her son was alive. What happened next, Timon hadn't expected. The queen ordered him to continue as the prince's caretaker, not just as a doctor but as a guardian, someone to watch over HFY during his recovery and beyond. Again, HFY said, scrambling the puzzle cube. Watch me do it again. The child had latched onto Timon immediately. At first, Timon thought it was just gratitude or maybe instinct. But as months passed, he realized it was something deeper. HFY had imprinted on him. The young prince followed him everywhere, learned his language, copied his mannerisms. When HFY was scared, he reached for Timon's hand. It made Timon's heart hurt in ways he didn't want to think about. The door to the medical chamber opened. A Zathran noble entered, his bone crown decorated with metal rings that marked high rank. Commander Ralthos, the queen's military advisor. He looked at Timon with barely hidden disgust. The human still tends the prince, Ralthos said in Zathran. He didn't know Timon had learned enough of their language to understand. Commander, Timon said in Korean, nodding slightly. HFY jumped between them. Ralthos! Did you see? I can solve the puzzle in under 2 minutes now. The commander's expression softened when he looked at the prince. Impressive, young one. But perhaps you should practice with Zathran tools, not human toys. But Taman gave it to me. It helps my coordination. Your human guardian teaches you many things. Ralthos looked at Taman again. Perhaps too many things. After the commander left, Taman knelt beside Keshava. You should probably listen to him about some things. Learn about your own culture. I do, Keshava said, but I like learning about human things too. You tell better stories than my tutors. They're all facts and history. You tell stories with feelings. That was the difference between them, Taman had learned. Zathran valued precision and logic. Emotion was seen as weakness, but humans lived in their emotions. They learned through stories and connections. Keshava was absorbing both ways of thinking, becoming something neither fully Zathran nor human. That night, Taman was escorted back to his quarters. They weren't a cell anymore. The queen had given him rooms in the royal section of the ship, close to the prince's chambers. It was still captivity, but comfortable captivity. His computer terminal blinked with a message. That was new. Taman approached carefully and opened it. The message was in Korean. Don't respond. Just read. This is Heejin. I'm in Sector 7. I found a way to hack their systems. There are 42 of us left alive. We're planning something. Stay ready. Taman stared at the message. Heejin had been an engineer before the war. Smart, resourceful. If anyone could hack Zathran systems, it was her. The message deleted itself after 30 seconds. Other humans. An escape plan. Freedom. Taman looked toward the door that led to Keshava's sleeping chamber. The prince often had nightmares. Sometimes he called for Taman in the middle of the night, scared and sick from remembered pain. Taman would sit with him until he fell back asleep. Could he leave him? 6 months later, everything came crashing down. A delegation from Earth arrived at the Zathran homeworld to negotiate. The war might be over, but tensions remained high. One of the negotiation points was prisoner release. Taman waited in his quarters while the talks happened. Hope burned in his chest for the first time in 2 years. Going home. Seeing his sister Subin again. Walking on Earth. Freedom. Keshava didn't understand why Taman was quiet that day. Are you sick? The young prince asked, touching Taman's arm with concern. No, I'm fine. You're sad. I can tell. Did I do something wrong? No, Keshava. You've done nothing wrong. The summons came that evening. Taman was brought before Queen Velamora in her throne room. The human delegation was there too. 3 diplomats in Earth uniforms. They looked at Taman with relief. We've secured the release of all remaining prisoners, the lead diplomat said, including you, Taman. You're coming home. Taman felt tears threaten. Home. Finally. No, Queen Velamora said. Everyone turned to look at her. I'm sorry, the diplomat said. The human Taman will not be released. He serves a vital function here. The prince requires his guardian. That's not acceptable, the diplomat said, voice hardening. All prisoners must be released under the ceasefire terms. Taman is not a prisoner. He is the prince's guardian by royal appointment. He's a human citizen taken during the war. That makes him a prisoner. The queen stood. He stays. The argument continued for an hour. The diplomats threatened to break off negotiations. The queen remained unmoved. Finally, they left, furious and empty-handed. The other 41 human prisoners would be released. Taman would stay. He stood there in shock as the throne room emptied. The queen watched him with those silver-flecked eyes. You can't do this, Taman said quietly. I can. I have. Why? You've got Zathran doctors now who understand the treatment. They can manage his care. This is not about medicine. The queen descended from her throne. My son needs you. Not for your medical skills, for what you've become to him. A human, a guardian he trusts completely. Do you know how rare that is? In Zathran culture, trust is currency. Everyone wants something. Every advisor has an agenda. Every noble plots for advantage. She stopped in front of him. But you protect my son because you choose to, not because you gain from it. That is irreplaceable. I'm a prisoner. You are the only being in this empire my son loves without condition. The only one who teaches him that strength and compassion can coexist. You think I don't see what you've done? You've shown him a different way of being. And that is exactly what the next Zathran ruler will need. Taman felt something break inside. So I never go home. I never see my family again. I just stay here and raise your son. Yes. The simple honesty of it was almost worse than a lie would have been. I hate you, Taemin said. I know, but you love him. And that matters more. She was right. And Taemin hated that too. Because when he thought about leaving, about never seeing Keshava again, something in his chest ached. The child who called him name in the night, who laughed at his stories, who was innocent of everything the Zathran Empire had done. Can I at least send a message to my sister? Let her know I'm alive? Queen Velmora considered this. One message. Heavily monitored. Nothing about this ship or our location. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night, Keshava found Taemin sitting alone in the observation room watching stars drift past. The prince climbed up on the bench beside him. The other humans left today, Keshava said. But you didn't. No. Are you staying because of me? Taemin looked at the child. Those silver-flecked eyes, so much like his mother's. Yes, I'm glad. Keshava leaned against him. I would miss you. Is that selfish? Yes, but it's also honest. They sat together in silence, human and alien, guardian and prince, watching the stars. And Taemin realized that somewhere along the way, this strange child had become someone he couldn't abandon, even if it meant giving up everything else. The knife came out of nowhere. One moment Taemin was walking through the royal gardens with Keshava, and the next he was throwing himself forward, pushing the young prince aside. He felt the blade slice across his shoulder instead of burying itself in Keshava's back. Taemin hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through his arm. He rolled and came up in a crouch, putting himself between Keshava and the attacker. The assassin was Zathran, dressed in the robes of a noble house. She held a curved blade that dripped with Taemin's blood. Behind her, 2 more assassins emerged from the ornamental plants. Stay behind me, Taemin told Keshava. The prince was 14 now, in Zathran terms almost an adult. But he was still young, still vulnerable. Taemin, your shoulder. Stay back. The assassin lunged. Taemin dodged barely. His shoulder screamed. He wasn't a soldier anymore, hadn't been for years. He was a medic and a guardian. But the old training came back. The assassin struck again. Taemin caught her wrist, twisted, and heard bone snap. She screamed and dropped the knife. The other 2 attacked together. Taemin knew he couldn't win this fight. He was one human with an injured shoulder against 3 trained killers. But he didn't need to win. He just needed to give Keshava time to run. Go, he shouted. Get to the guards. I won't leave you. Typical. The prince had learned too many human ideas about loyalty. One assassin got past Taemin's guard and slashed at Keshava. The young prince surprised everyone by catching the blade with his bare hand. Zathran's skin was tougher than human skin, but it still cut. He cried out but held on. Then the guards arrived. 6 of them, weapons drawn. The fight ended in seconds. 2 assassins died. 1 was captured alive. Taemin collapsed against a pillar, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Medical teams rushed in. Keshava knelt beside him, his own hand wrapped in bandages. You saved me. Again. That's my job, Taemin managed. Queen Velmora arrived minutes later. Her face was a mask of cold rage. She looked at the dead assassins, at her injured son, at Taemin bleeding on the ground. Then she turned to the captured assassin. Who sent you? The assassin said nothing. The queen's voice dropped to something terrible. I will ask once more. Who sent you? Duchess Cormina, the assassin whispered. And others. Nobles who believe the prince is corrupted by human influence, that he must die before he ruins the empire. Taemin watched the queen's expression. He had learned to read Zathran faces over the past 6 years. What he saw now was fury beyond anything he had witnessed. Execute her, the queen said. Then, bring me Duchess Cormina and everyone connected to this plot. What happened next would be talked about for years in Zathran history. Queen Velmora personally executed 17 nobles involved in the assassination attempt. Not quietly. Not in private. In the throne room, in front of the entire court. It was brutal and terrifying and sent a very clear message. Touch the prince and die. Taemin spent 3 days in the medical bay. His shoulder would heal, though it would scar. HFY visited every day, sitting beside his bed and practicing the Korean phrases Taemin had taught him over the years. You should rest your voice, Taemin said. I'm fine, I need to practice. You always say practice makes perfect. That's for skills, not sitting by a hospital bed. HFY was quiet for a moment. I was afraid. When they attacked, I thought they would kill you. But they didn't. Because you stopped them. Because you always stop them. You've been protecting me since I was small. I don't remember what life was like before you. That hit Taemin harder than the knife had. 6 years. Half of HFY's young life. The prince barely remembered a time when Taemin wasn't there. On the 3rd day, Queen Velmora came alone. She stood at the foot of his bed and studied him with those silver-flecked eyes. The doctors say you will recover fully. Yes. Good. She paused. I owe you a truth, Taemin. I kept you here initially because my son needed a skilled guardian. Someone without political ambitions. That was practical, logical. And now? Now I realize I need you for different reasons. You've changed my son. He thinks differently than any Zathran prince before him. He questions things, he feels things. He cares about beings beyond himself. That makes him unusual. Perhaps that makes him dangerous to some, but I believe it makes him exactly what our empire needs. Taemin sat up carefully. He's a child caught between 2 species. That's a hard thing to be. Yes, but you guide him through it. You show him how to be strong and compassionate, how to be logical and emotional, how to be Zathran and something more. She moved closer. Do you know what my people are, Taemin? We are a dying race. Our numbers decrease each generation. We conquered because we were desperate. We fought humanity because we needed resources to survive. But all our precision and logic and strength couldn't save us from slow extinction. I didn't know. Few do. But I see something in my son. Something that might save us. Not through conquest or logic alone, but through adaptation. Through learning from others. Through the very human qualities you've taught him. So I'm still a prisoner. Just a useful one? No. You're a guardian who has earned the right to choose. If you truly wish to leave, I will arrange it. You may return to Earth. I won't stop you this time. Taemin stared at her. Why? Because keeping you here against your will serves no purpose if my son senses your resentment. He needs you whole, and I owe you a debt for his life that I can never repay. So I offer you this. Stay and be honored as the prince's guardian, with all the status that brings, or go home with my thanks and blessing. She left him alone to think. It should have been an easy choice. Go home, see Subin, walk on Earth again, be free. But Taemin's computer terminal chimed that night with another message from Hee-jin. We're ready. 3 weeks from now. We found a way off this ship. We can get you out too. Be ready. An escape. Real freedom. Hee-jin had been sending occasional messages over the years. Taemin knew some of the humans who'd stayed behind in different sectors. They'd built a network, found allies, and now they had a plan. But there was one more person Taemin needed to see. Jinwoo. He'd learned months ago that his old squad leader was alive, held in a different section of the ship. Taemin had called in every favor, used every bit of his status as the prince's guardian to arrange a meeting. They brought Jinwoo to a neutral room under guard. He looked older, harder, scarred by years of captivity. When he saw Taemin, his expression was complicated. You look good, Jinwoo said. Living with royalty agrees with you. It's not like that, isn't it? You've got nice quarters, good food, protection, while the rest of us rot in cells. The bitterness hurt, but Taemin understood it. I didn't choose this, not at first. But you're choosing it now. Hee-jin told me. You could come with us, but you won't. Because of the alien kid. He's not just an alien kid, he's… What, your son? He's the enemy, Taemin. His people killed our squad. They killed Minsu and Daehyun and everyone else we cared about. And you're raising their prince to be what? A better killer? I'm trying to make him better than that, better than what his people were, better than what we were. Jinwoo leaned forward. Listen to yourself. You've been here too long. You've forgotten you're human. Have I? Or have you forgotten that humans are supposed to be better than revenge? They stared at each other, years of friendship cracking apart over different choices. Come with us, Jinwoo said finally. When we escape, come home. I can't. Because the Queen won't let you? Because I don't want to. I can't abandon him, Jinwoo. I know what that makes me. I know what you think of me, but I can't. Jinwoo stood. Then you're not the person I knew anymore. The Taemin I served with would never choose them over us. Maybe you're right. Maybe I've changed. But so has the situation. This isn't about sides anymore. It's about a child who needs someone. After Jinwoo left, Taemin sat alone. He thought about Earth, about Subin's smile, about rain and forests and everything he'd lost. Then he thought about HFY calling his name in the night, scared and reaching for comfort. About teaching the young prince to solve puzzles and tell stories and think about others. The choice was impossible. But he'd already made it years ago, hadn't he? The moment he'd decided to save a dying child instead of letting him perish. The moment he'd stayed despite every chance to leave. He found HFY in the library, reading human literature in careful Korean. The prince looked up. Taemin. Look, I'm reading the book you recommended. The one about... Taemin hugged him. HFY froze in surprise, then hugged back. What's wrong? The prince asked. Nothing, everything. I just wanted you to know that I'm staying. By choice this time. Really staying. HFY pulled back, silver eyes wide. You were going to leave? I had the option. But no, I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. The relief on the young prince's face was all the answer Taemin needed. The ship shuddered as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Taemin gripped the armrests of his seat and watched through the viewport as blue sky replaced the black of space. 7 years. 7 years since he'd seen his homeworld. HFY sat beside him, equally tense but trying not to show it. The young prince was 15 now, tall and strong, his bone crown fully developed. He wore formal robes that marked his status, but had insisted on adding a small pin with both the Zathran and human symbols interlinked. A gift from Taemin. It's very blue, HFY said in Korean. His accent was perfect now. Wait until you see the forests, the oceans, the rain, water falling from the sky. I've read about it, but it seems impossible. Taemin smiled. Trust me, it's real. Behind them, Queen Velmora sat in the command seat surrounded by her guards and advisors. This diplomatic mission had been her idea. Meet with Earth's leaders, negotiate a real peace treaty, not just a ceasefire. Use her son and his human guardian as proof that the two species could coexist. It was a good plan. It was also terrifying. Commander Ralthos approached. His bone crown was decorated with military honors. We will land in 20 minutes. The human delegation will meet us at the spaceport. Any signs of hostility? The Queen asked. No, but remain cautious. Many humans still hate us for the war. Many humans. That was putting it mildly. Taemin knew what waited below. Protests, anger, calls for the Zathran to leave Earth's system. The war had ended, but the wounds hadn't healed. The landing was smooth. The massive Zathran ship settled onto a platform built specifically for this occasion. As the ramp extended, Taemin could see the crowd beyond the security barriers. Thousands of humans holding signs. Some welcomed peace. Many did not. Stay close to me, Taemin told HFY. I'm not afraid. I know, but I am. For you. They walked down the ramp together. Queen Velmora led, flanked by guards. HFY and Taemin followed. The Earth delegation waited at the bottom. 3 officials in formal uniforms, and at the center, President Jae-sung, a former military commander himself. The President and the Queen greeted each other with careful formality. Taemin barely heard the words. He was too busy scanning the crowd, looking for threats. Looking for... there. A woman in the front row of the civilian section, holding a sign that said, "Welcome home." She was crying. Subin, his little sister, not so little anymore, 25 years old now. Taemin's vision blurred. He wanted to run to her, to hug her, to explain everything. but he was part of the Zathran delegation now. He had duties. Subin saw him. Their eyes met across 50 meters of concrete. She mouthed his name. The official ceremonies took hours, speeches, introductions, tour of the conference facility. All the while Taemin was aware of the stares. Humans looking at him with confusion, anger, sometimes sympathy. Was he a prisoner? A traitor? Something else? HFY handled it better than expected. He greeted the human officials in Korean, answered questions about his studies, showed genuine interest in Earth's culture. Some of the officials seemed charmed despite themselves. Others remained cold. That evening, in the quarters assigned to the Zathran delegation, Taemin finally got permission to see Subin. She arrived with an official escort but ran to him the moment she entered the room. "You're alive. You're really alive." She hugged him so hard it hurt. "I'm alive. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't contact you more. I got your messages, all 3 of them over 7 years. I read them 1,000 times each." She pulled back, studying his face. "You look different, older, but also, I don't know. Like someone else. I am someone else. The war changed me. What came after changed me more." Subin noticed HFY standing awkwardly by the window. "Is that him?" "The prince?" "Yes." "HFY, this is my sister Subin." The prince bowed, uncertain. "I've heard much about you. Taemin speaks of you often." Subin stared at him. Taemin could see her processing everything. The alien who had kept her brother captive. The child Taemin had raised. The reason he never came home. "Hello," she said finally. "Welcome to Earth." They talked for hours. Subin told him about life on Earth, the rebuilding after the war, the political tensions, the rise of groups like Terra First who wanted to end all contact with aliens. She told him about their parents' graves. They died during the war, casualties of a Zathran bombing. "I don't know how to feel about you being here," Subin admitted. "Part of me is just happy you're alive. Part of me is angry you stayed with them. I understand, do you? Do you really? Because from where I'm sitting, you chose them over us." HFY, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "He saved my life. Multiple times. Without him, I would have died as a child. I know that doesn't make up for your parents. Nothing could. But Taemin is a good person. He taught me that good people exist on both sides." Subin looked at the young prince for a long moment. "You really care about him, don't you? He's the only parent I truly remember. My mother is the queen, she rules. But Taemin raised me, taught me, loved me when I was difficult to love, so yes, I care about him very much." That broke something in Subin. She started crying. "I don't know how to hate you when you say things like that." The peace summit began the next day. It was held in a massive conference center in Geneva, neutral ground. Representatives from dozens of human governments attended. Queen Velmora presented her proposals. President Jae-sung responded with Earth's demands. The negotiations were tense but professional. On the 3rd day, HFY was scheduled to give a speech. It was Taemin's idea. Let the humans see the next generation of Zathran leadership. Show them that change was possible. Backstage, HFY was nervous. "What if they hate me? What if I say the wrong thing?" "You'll be fine. Just speak from your heart. Tell them what you believe." "I believe what you taught me." "Is that enough?" "It's everything." HFY walked onto the stage. Thousands of human eyes watched him. Cameras broadcast his image across Earth and into space. He stood at the podium, young and uncertain but determined. "My name is HFY," he began in Korean. "I am the son of Queen Velmora of the Zathran Empire. I am also the student of Taemin, a human who saved my life and taught me what it means to be more than just my species." He spoke for 20 minutes. About growing up with a human guardian. About learning 2 ways of thinking. About how war had hurt both peoples. About how peace required courage from everyone. "I know many of you lost family to my people," HFY said. "I know you have every reason to hate us. But I stand here as proof that we can change, that we can learn, that the next generation doesn't have to repeat the mistakes of the last. My teacher showed me that. Now I want to show you." The room was silent when he finished. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, half the room was applauding. The other half sat in stony silence, but it was a start. That night, Taemin received an urgent message. A threat. The Terra First movement had learned about the summit schedule. They planned to assassinate Queen Velmora during tomorrow's signing ceremony. The intelligence came from Earth security services, but they couldn't guarantee the Queen's safety. At the same time, Zathran intelligence reported something worse. A coup was being planned back home. Military hardliners who opposed the Queen's peace initiative would strike when she was off-world and vulnerable. Taemin brought both pieces of intelligence to Queen Velmora. She listened without expression. "So both our peoples have those who prefer war to peace," she said. "It seems that way. What do you recommend?" "Cancel the signing. Return home immediately. Deal with your internal threats, and let the extremists win. Let them prove that peace is impossible." The Queen stood. "No, we proceed as planned. But we must be prepared for both attacks. Your Majesty, I did not come all this way to run from fear. If I die tomorrow, at least I die trying to build something better. The question is, are you willing to risk the same?" Taemin looked at Keshava, who had been listening from the corner. The young prince met his eyes. "Where you go, I go," Keshava said firmly. "That's what you taught me. We protect each other," and there it was. The choice Taemin had made 7 years ago reflected back at him. A human and an alien, guardian and prince, refusing to be separated even in the face of death. "Then we face tomorrow together," Taemin said. "All of us." Queen Velmora allowed herself a small smile. "Good, because I suspect we'll need every ally we can find." Outside, Earth's sun was setting, painting the sky in colors Taemin had almost forgotten existed. Tomorrow would bring assassination attempts and political coups. Tomorrow might bring death. But tonight, for just a moment, a human and 2 Zathran watched the sunset together and hoped that tomorrow would bring something else instead. Something harder than peace, harder than war, a future. The morning of the signing ceremony came too quickly. Taemin had barely slept. He stood in his room, checking the protective vest hidden under his formal clothes one more time. Earth security had provided it, though they warned it might not stop a plasma weapon. A knock at the door. Keshava entered, already dressed in his ceremonial robes. The young prince looked calm, but Taemin could see the tension in his shoulders. "Are you ready?" Keshava asked. "No, but we're going anyway." They met Queen Velmora in the main chamber. She wore full royal armor beneath her diplomatic robes, ancient Zathran metal that had protected rulers for generations. Commander Ralthos and 20 elite guards surrounded her. "Earth security has swept the conference hall 3 times, Ralthos reported. They've found nothing. But that means little if the assassins are skilled." "And news from home?" the Queen asked. "The coup appears ready to launch. Admiral Tokran has gathered his fleet. They'll move the moment you're dead. Then we must not die." Simple enough. The ride to the conference center took 20 minutes. The streets were lined with crowds. Some held signs of peace. Others screamed for the Zathran to leave. Security barriers kept them back, but the hatred was palpable. Taemin kept close to Keshava. He'd spent 7 years protecting this child. He wasn't about to fail now. Inside the conference hall, delegates from both species filled the seats. On the stage sat a table with the peace treaty, ready for signatures. President Jae-sung was already there, flanked by Earth security detail. Queen Velmora took her position. Keshava and Taemin stood behind her, along with the Zathran delegation. Everything felt too exposed, too vulnerable. The president began his speech. Words about peace, about moving forward, about learning from the past. Standard diplomatic language that meant everything and nothing. Then Queen Velmora spoke. She talked about the cost of war, the losses both sides had suffered, the need to build something new. Her words were powerful, practiced, perfect. "And now," she said, "we sign this treaty as a promise to future generations, human and Zathran, together." She reached for the signing instrument. Taemin saw the movement a split second before it happened. A man in an Earth military uniform, standing with the security detail, his hand moving to his weapon. Not a plasma rifle. Something smaller. "A human projectile weapon! Down!" Taemin screamed. He threw himself forward, shoving Keshava to the floor. The gunshot cracked through the hall. People screamed. The bullet that would have hit the prince hit the table instead. Everything exploded into chaos. The assassin fired again. President Jae-sung's guards returned fire. The man went down, but there were others. 3 more stood up in the crowd, weapons drawn. Commander Ralthos and his guards formed a barrier around the queen. Human security engaged the attackers. More shots. More screams. Taemin covered Keshava with his own body, feeling impacts against his vest. "Stay down," he ordered. But mother, your mother has guards. You have me. Stay down. The firefight lasted less than a minute. All 4 assassins were killed, but the damage was done. The hall was in panic. The peace ceremony had turned into a bloodbath. Taman helped Keshva up. The prince was shaking but unharmed. Queen Velmora stood tall, surrounded by guards looking furious. President Jae-sung was barking orders to his security teams. Then Taemin saw him. At the far end of the hall, another man in uniform. But this uniform was familiar. Special Forces. The same unit Taemin had served in, and the man wearing it was Colonel Myung-ho, one of the founders of Terra First. The colonel raised a plasma rifle, military grade, stolen from Zathran equipment captured during the war. He aimed at Queen Velmora. Taemin didn't think. He ran, 20 meters across an open floor. He heard Keshva shouting his name, heard guards yelling. But he ran. The colonel fired. Taemin threw himself into the path of the plasma bolt. It hit him square in the chest. The vest absorbed some of it. Not enough. He felt fire spread through his body as he went down. But he'd bought seconds. Seconds for the guards to reach the colonel. Seconds for them to stop him before he could fire again. Taemin hit the ground, pain like nothing he'd ever felt. His chest was burning. He could smell his own flesh cooking. Someone was screaming. Maybe him, faces above him. Keshva crying. Queen Velmora, her expression shattered. President Jae-sung calling for medics. Human and Zathran doctors rushing forward. Taemin, no, Keshva was saying. You can't, you have to stay. You promised you'd stay. Taemin tried to speak. Couldn't. Everything was going dark. He woke up 6 days later in a hospital. His chest was wrapped in bandages. Machines beeped around him. And sitting beside his bed holding his hand was Keshva. You're awake, the prince said. His voice was hoarse. The doctor said you might not wake up. That the damage was too severe. But I told them you were too stubborn to die. Hurts, Taemin managed. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Not your fault, Queen Velmora entered. She looked tired, older than he'd ever seen her. The human who risks everything for my son again. Did it work? Taemin asked. The treaty? Yes. After what happened, both sides were shocked into reality. President Jae-sung and I signed the treaty from your hospital room. The images went across both our worlds. A human dying to protect a Zathran. It proved more than any words could that peace is possible. And the coup? Crushed. When news spread of the assassination attempt and your sacrifice, my people rallied. Admiral Tukran's fleet defected. He's been arrested. The hardliners lost their power, so we won, we survived. That's close enough to winning for now. Taemin spent 3 months recovering. His sister visited every day. Subin had finally made her peace with his choices. She even became friends with Keshva, teaching him about Earth culture and human history. When Taemin was finally released, President Jae-sung made an offer. The position of ambassador between worlds, a human who would divide his time between Earth and the Zathran Empire, ensuring the peace held. Making sure both sides kept their promises. It's a hard job, the president said. You'll never truly belong to either world. You'll be caught in the middle, criticized by both sides. So nothing different from the last 7 years, Taemin said. He accepted. Keshva made his own choice. He requested permission to study on Earth for 2 years, to attend human universities, to live among the people his kind had once fought. Queen Velmora agreed, seeing it as proof of commitment to peace. So Taemin found himself in a strange new life. Half the year on Earth working with human governments, half the year with the Zathran, working with the Queen's Council, and always, Keshva was there. Learning, growing, becoming something neither fully human nor fully Zathran, but something new. 5 years passed. The peace held. Barely. There were incidents, protests, occasional violence. But it held. Taemin stood in a new building on the border between human and Zathran space, the first joint academy, where both species would train together. Diplomats, scientists, peacekeepers. The next generation, Keshva, stood beside him. The prince was 20 now, fully grown, his bone crown magnificent. He wore both Zathran and human clothing, mixed in a style that was becoming common among young people of both species. Do you think it will work? Keshva asked. This academy, this dream, I don't know, but we have to try. I'm scared. What if I'm not ready to teach these students? What if they see me as the enemy's son? Then you show them what I showed you. That being the enemy's son doesn't matter. What matters is who you choose to be. Students began arriving. Human and Zathran, young people who barely remembered the war. They looked at HFY with curiosity, not hatred. They looked at Tai Min with respect, not suspicion. A small human girl, maybe 6 years old, approached. She had been brought by her mother, one of the instructors. She looked up at Tai Min with wide eyes. "Are you the guardian?" she asked. "I am. My mom says you guarded the prince when he was small, that you protected him even though he was alien. Were you scared?" Tai Min knelt down to her level. He thought about that first day 7 years ago, standing before Queen Velmora with a dying child, having every reason to refuse, choosing to help anyway. Every single day, he told the girl, "I was scared every single day." "But you did it anyway?" "Yes, why?" "Because fear is just the beginning of courage, and courage is how we become more than we thought possible." The girl smiled and ran back to her mother. HFY watched with something like wonder on his face. "You really believe that, don't you?" the prince said. "After everything, all the pain and sacrifice, you still believe it was worth it, don't you?" HFY looked at the students entering the academy. Human and Zathran, nervous and excited, ready to learn together. "Yes, I do." Queen Velmora arrived for the opening ceremony. She rarely left the Zathran homeworld now, but she made an exception for this. She stood on the stage and spoke about the future, about how two species that had nearly destroyed each other were now building something together. "This academy exists because one human chose compassion over hate," she said. "Because one guardian chose to save a child instead of letting him die. That choice changed my son. That choice changed me. That choice changed the path of two civilizations. Never forget that individual choices matter, that small acts of courage can reshape the universe." After the ceremony, Tai Min, HFY, and Queen Velmora stood together.